Great to talk to you. I'm very excited. I watched a ton of your clips online, a lot of your reels on Instagram, a lot of your stand-up stuff. A lot of times, small clubs. I know you've just got back from Israel a couple days ago. As you know, we're sitting here talking. Coming up on February 5th, you're playing a pretty large synagogue here in the Twin Cities at Bethel. How
Sphere
does
of
yeah,
of
that's
St.
right.
Paul, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
so as you it's a very different kind of room than some of the rooms, at least the ones that you play clips for. How do you think your act kind of translates as you go to this kind of sanctuary space?
Yeah, first of all, so thanks for having me. I do a lot of, like, JCCs and synagogues and Hillels and Chabads, and then also, I came from, like, a comedy club background. I performed, like, last time I was at New York Comedy Club. Whenever I go, travel places, I usually also try to get up at, like, in the local scene, whenever I go out somewhere. I will say it's interesting. I was just talking to, a Passover program, about this, because they have an older audience, as well. And I grew up in a modern Orthodox Jewish home. I went to Jewish day school. Like I talk the way I talk, and as much as I don't really talk dirty. I don't do all that stuff. So I feel like I've been blessed in having a very authentically deep background in history with Jews in a very bookable way. Very.
Well,
Well, yeah.
that definitely helps.
I think that there's a real thing also is when you talk about like the internet and stuff, like, after October 7th, a lot of people started to do like Jewish advocacy and they
Mhm.
started to do, that was their introduction into Judaism online. I think a lot of them now are kind of struggling a little bit with, like October 7th was awful. The war, has kind of reached like, it's not over because this is never going to be over, but we're definitely at a place where it seems like we've finished at least like a phase of the war. And I think that there's a lot of people that are struggling, like, how do I talk about Judaism? How do I connect to Judaism past, October 7th online? And you're able to tell who the people are that are authentic.
Mhm.
Miriam Ezgawai,
Yes.
who's a big, I'm a huge fan of Miriam Ezgawai because she's clearly just an authentic Jew who's been doing this for a while. There's just like, there's people that are just awesome and very natural. Chef Tova, she's a good friend of mine who's awesome online. People like that. I think that over the next couple of years, it's that genuine, authentic Jewish vibe and experience that people are going to kind of crave. So hopefully I'm able to play for, the audience out in St. Paul, sorry, in St. Louis Park.
Minneapolis Park, yeah.
Yeah. 14
So,
minutes away from Minneapolis is what I learned when I Googled my tickets, my plane tickets.
yeah, you're not far from the airport. Like, I like to say we're like 20 to 25 minutes away from most things.
There you
So,
go.
yeah, exactly.
I've been there. I just want to say I've been to Minneapolis to St. Paul a couple times. Did you know
Yes, you
this?
have. Yes,
Do
because
you know about the crash?
you threw out the first pitch
No,
at
even cooler
you
than that.
okay.
Remember Crashed Ice, the Red Bull downhill ice racing
Yeah,
competition
at the
that they did in
cathedral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, I went to cover it for, 2 different news websites, and I sat literally on the border wall of it, and this guy first of all, coolest sporting event I'd ever been well, not coolest, top 5 coolest sporting event I've ever been to was that Crashed Ice thing. Did you ever go to it live?
I never went to it. I would watch I've seen the clip. I've seen clips for years, like
Yeah.
all the crazy Red Bull sports,
Yeah.
all
It
that
was
stuff. It's
cool.
insane.
They had me the track. So for those at home who don't know this, it's a downhill ice racing competition. So it's kind of like a luge track, but you have 4 ice skaters going down as quick as possible. And like the archetype of the athlete is like hockey guy and like extreme sports guy who can like, who can skate and then also can kind of, has like is very limber and can like do jumps and stuff like that. The track starts at the stained glass thing on the top of the cathedral. So I stood up there looking over, Minneapolis and St. Paul. Coolest experience of all time. And then I did see someone get very injured right in front of me, a little bit later that night. So, up and down.
Yeah, listen, it's as somebody who doesn't like heights, that sounds really terrifying to be up there.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. It was wild. It was absolutely insane. It was
And
so cool.
you were just standing. You weren't even skating down the thing.
No, and no, and you know what's funny? They had me skate on because I was press at the time. They had me skate on a little part of it. And I slipped, and my skate hit the wall, and I broke the wall. And then they stopped letting the reporters skate for the session, which that's a that's an actual fact.
Oh,
Yeah, and then a couple of years later, I threw the first pitch out at the Minnesota Twins game. I'll tell you, worst hot dog at a baseball stadium that I had ever had, and but very very pretty stadium. That's my takeaway from it.
the stadium itself is gorgeous. Although I
Gorgeous.
got to tell you, somebody who it's checking my watch to see that it's 20 some degrees today as we're talking. Why they would build a base? I know it's not baseball season yet, but like the weather here is so unpredictable up until like maybe June. Why
Yeah.
you wouldn't put a retractable roof on on a stadium here is beyond me. But
Crazy, absolutely crazy. You know, it's funny.
it's crazy.
I'm in Topps trading cards because I broke the record for most first pitches in a year. I threw 50.
Yes,
Yes, I threw
and
50
you
for
did that
Make-A-Wish.
for Make-A-Wish, yes,
Actually,
which
that's
is
the Guinness record over there.
it's amazing. You've got a Guinness record on your wall.
It's crazy, absolutely wild. But yeah, I broke the record. I threw 50 first pitches. 12 of them were at major league stadiums. The rest were minor league stadiums. It was the most fun. It was for a great cause. I had cancer when I was a kid. I got a Make-A-Wish, which was awesome. And this was just a really fun way to spend a summer. It was also, you know what's funny? One of the reasons I did it was because it was around the time the election was happening, and I live in New York, and things were very chaotic before the presidential election.
Mhm.
And and I was also kind of curious about getting out of a little bit of a bubble. So there's nothing more American than minor league baseball, and I basically just spent 6 months just traveling around.
Which is awesome. Look, I grew up with baseball. I'm from Detroit. I'm a Tigers fan, remain a Tigers fan. And, you know, the thing that I love about minor league baseball is the nicknames
Oh yeah.
because they get to get like super creative with their nicknames, whereas Major League Baseball is distinctly not
I
creative.
threw a pitch out of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, the Hartford Yard Goats, the Portland Pickles, the Windy City Thunderbolts, the Quad City River Bandits.
So I
That
was
was
going to
one.
ask you, what's the best nickname of all of the minor league teams you got to see?
Oh my god! I
Got
mean,
to like
the
connect with.
Portland Pickles and the Hartford Yard Goats, I think, were the most fun. The Hartford Yard Goats have a literal yard goat that a guy brings in, so there's a goat at every game that's there. I will say also, it was very fun. This was a very very common experience I would have, where like it would be like I'd show up and I'd be like, "Wow, I love this new name." And then the guy would be like, "Well, we hate this name. We like our old name." And they'd be like, "Well, what was the old name?" And they'd just be like, "The Kansas City Jewish people." Like they would have like crazy names and like problematic names from the back. But it was awesome. It was the best. It was the best summer. Absolutely the best summer.
And the Portland Pickles might also be the most Jewish of the names
Oh yeah.
you came
And
across.
I was there on crop dust night. That was the other thing. Is that the theme nights were hilarious. So they
I'm
had a
sorry,
fart.
crop dust night.
It was a fart themed night. I was there. It was a full on fart themed night. They were playing fart audio. There was a they had model planes like flying around like they were crop dusting. It was a whole it was minor league baseball is awesome. You know what's so funny about it also? Just because of scheduling, I ended up throwing out at like 4 or 5 like Spanish heritage nights, which I thought was pretty funny. Just because, to get on the schedule. One time I threw out a first pitch and it got rain delayed, so I had to go to the next day, show up the next day, and this is for the Round Rock Express, which is the Texas Rangers' affiliate. And I'm
Yep.
on the field, and all of a sudden they bring out the World Series trophy, the World Series, the pennant from the year
Oh
before, and
wow.
they were handing out the World Series rings to the people who were on the team the year before that were now as part of the Round Rock Express farm system. So that was absurdly cool. I threw a first pitch out at Fenway, and then I was on the radio with Joe Castiglione, who's like a
Oh,
big
that's the
radio
legend.
mocker, legend, absolute
Yeah.
legend. It was the coolest. It was just wild. It broke the record at 40 at Citi Field. I'm a Met fan, so it was a big
Okay.
deal. Yeah.
So you're a Mets fan. You can't be happy with how things have been going since I don't know, say 1986.
Here's what literally I've been thinking about all day. I'm not
Okay.
even joking. I am so curious what is gonna happen first. I'll just say it. Mets are gonna announce Kyle Tucker or Iran gets bombed. and I don't know, it's, like, at the same exact time where I don't know, each one is, like, 80% of the way there, they keep on flirting with each other, is it gonna happen, is it not gonna happen, but I'm hoping Kyle Tucker happens. Man, that freaking cheap Jew who has spent so much money. I don't know what else to say about it except David Stearns is causing a lot of anti-Semitism in the New York community. Maybe we don't need that now. I don't know why you don't give Alonso the money that he wanted. Edwin Diaz, I think, was had his Edwin Diaz had his foot on the way out. I don't think that he was going to get signed
Yes.
again.
Oh, no, I
He,
don't think so either.
I think that
I don't
was
think he wanted to be back.
it was writing on the wall for him. I was a little bit annoyed. There's a guy who I like named what's his face? That Japanese kid that just got signed, Murateka Murakami, who I think is going to be like pretty. He's going to be like a kind of like a Pablo Sandoval,
Mhm.
big chunky hitter. And I was
Yeah.
hoping they were going to pick him up, and they didn't pick him up. There was a pitcher who there's another Japanese pitcher that we didn't pick up. They gotta sign Kyle Tucker, and I'll feel better about this. One big news was that Juan Soto almost opted out of his contract when Edwin Diaz left because he had something like 39% of the players have to be Spanish or something. Like, he's a weird opt-out clause. Yeah,
That's so weird.
yeah, crazy.
The So in one story, you went from you need Kyle Tucker to sign with the Mets, but also likened it to what might happen first, that or Iran getting bombed. So
Yes.
your comedy, like, this is sort of a common theme, is that you very loose, but also very current event based
Yeah.
as it pertains to the Jewish world.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk more about sports in a sec, but I sort of want to talk about this. How do you find the humor uh
Yeah.
in like deeply dark and serious and undoubtedly weird times that we're in?
I am a cancer survivor. My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. My mom's gone through stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure my dad's gone through stuff also. Uh, but like we've all, I've gone through it, and my family my family's outrageously funny. My mom is one of the funniest people that I've ever met. Jews in general are very funny. The way we parse information is very specific compared to, other cultures. And I think that I think that I'm blessed in that the way that I've always parsed information was like some sort of comedic, general annoyance. Even when I was a kid, I was generally annoyed at stuff. And, it's now I feel like every time I react to something, I, for a while when I was in the comedy community, I kind of like tried to mute my Judaism a little bit. Not that I would not talk about it, but I definitely would kind of like code switch down a little bit. Over the past couple of years, I think that I've been able to really find myself like online. And I think that that has led to a way too casual comfortability about talking about stuff.
Mm.
And I do think that that is definitely like plays into it. It's just the more that I kind of like throw my hands up in the air and just go like, I don't care what you guys think. This is what I thought. I don't think I'm racist. I don't think I'm like inappropriate. I don't think that my brain moves in a way that I have to kind of back check. Which, maybe I'm wrong and I'm secretly all those things and haven't figured it out yet and haven't had my moment. But I just say, yeah.
Also, and I don't know how to break it to you, your name is Eitan Levine. I don't like, you're Jewish. I don't think there's any getting away from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was recently in Israel and there were a couple of Jews there. No,
No kidding.
crazy. No, I know. That's the thing is that like I'm not Evan Samuel. I'm Eitan Shmuel, and it's a real,
Yes.
it's a real thing. And I think that over the past couple of years, specifically in the Jewish community, like we've all been forced to really reckon and think about what Judaism means to us, what community means to us, and like how we represent our authentic selves in some way.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I feel more like Aton now than I did before. And I think that's a fun way to think about it.
Why do you think, and it feels like uniquely around October 7th in a way, or since October 7th, that was sort of like the line of demarcation, if you will. Why do
Yeah.
you think that happening has sort of drawn out more Jews and Jewish influencers like yourself into this kind of space?
I can't escape it. What's funny is that there's a channel that I love a lot who their content isn't for me, but they handle Jewish stuff in Israel very well. Lost
Mm,
Tribe. I don't know if you follow Lost Tribe,
sure. I
but
know Lost Tribe.
their demo's a little bit younger, but they really do Judaism very authentically. And what is great is that, they very clearly made a decision after October 7th that they were not going to pivot their channel and they were going to stay as authentic, as possible to this thing. And once again, it just comes back to like authenticity and like, you know, I, I don't think I would have been able to escape talking about this thing. My sisters live there. It's on my mind constantly. It's in the news
Mhm.
constantly. As a Jewish comic, there have been times where my connection with Israel has, prevented me from getting booked or, people have said like some
Mm.
pretty bad stuff about me and certain more extreme group chats that I don't, engage with. So
Probably smart.
yeah, there was some stuff that was said about me, that was wild, and I made a decision. This is pre-October 7th, actually,
Oh, okay.
to give you like an idea of how crazy it is. I'll tell you the joke that got me labeled this. The joke was my sister. So my sister lives in Israel, and she was getting married. And when she was getting married, it was around those times that like there was tensions between Israel and Hamas. This is pre-October 7th.
Okay.
And my sister getting married in Vineyard, and it was one of those times where like, Iron Dome is happening, Hamas is sending rockets, Israel's sending rockets, things were kind of like, snowballing into like a conflict, like a bigger conflict. And I remember at the time thinking that if any of those missiles would have touched that vineyard, my mom would have shown up to Israel and tried to fix this herself. And no one is going to like it when Eitan Levine shows up to Gaza City and is like, I don't care about Jews. I don't care about Hamas. I don't care about Netanyahu. We have a deposit down on the caterer. You know how hard it was to book this venue? Pisgah Winery in August? Are you out of your mind? I don't care about ticking bombs. You know what I care about? The ticking biological clock of my unmarried Orthodox Jewish daughter, we're not waiting for this conflict to end. So that's the joke, right? Is that joke offensive to
That's funny.
Palestinians?
That
Thank you.
the joke is
That's funny
funny.
joke for sure. It's offensive to Palestinians? No. It's offensive to Jews? No. It's offensive to Jewish moms more than anything else.
Yeah.
And there was some stuff that was said about me in some circles, and because of that joke, which is crazy. I know, that's the reaction.
It's
But the thing is that I had a conversation with one of the people who was in the group chat where this stuff. Basically, I was talking to a friend about getting booked on their show, and they said we can't book you. People feel uncomfortable by you. And then I said what? And I had a conversation with them. And while we're having this call, like the decision to feel uncomfortable by me was that joke, and it was like acknowledging Israel existed was enough. But that's an unserious part of the world. And after
yeah.
that happened, I made a very big decision not to engage with that universe because at the end of the day, they didn't affect my bookings. They don't affect, like, this isn't like a group of people that's taken seriously. And I have yet to be in a scenario where I've seen like extreme voices affect my career, is what I would say,
Okay.
in any significant way. So yeah,
So I think first of all, I think you're right. I think that joke is probably more offensive to
my
Jewish
mom.
moms and the stereotype of Jewish moms, really
Yeah.
specifically the one Jewish mom, than I think um anyone else in
It
as
was
part of that
stupid. It
story.
was a
But
very, very stupid, unserious. These are people that are unserious. The issue is with
right,
the debate right now is that they want to talk about getting rid of Israel completely when the conversation is like, okay, Israel's not going anywhere, Palestinians aren't going anywhere. But,
right.
if that's the group that's making the decision then on how to talk about me, then, I can't fight that.
Is it hard to try to be funny and sort of work in the space of both comedy and the really weird sort of geopolitical space that Israel and Jews unfortunately are kind of occupying right now?
It is, first of all, we got to stop occupying stuff. No, I'm joking. That was a joke. That was a joke. Uh, um, I the answer is that really it's a question. It's not a matter of how do I be funny. It's a matter of, all right, Eitan, maybe don't make a joke about this specific, thing. Like that's really the gauging what to talk about and how to talk about. It is more the problem. Whenever I have jokes, I talk about cancer on stage. I talk about October 7th a little bit on stage. I
Mhm.
talk about Israel stuff on stage. some of that is like a couple of weeks of saying a premise to silence or like having, being embarrassed into trying to figure out the better way to present it. When I talk about cancer, every cancer joke is 2 months of me being like, okay, audience, like it's totally fine. I'm fine. Let's laugh.
Yeah.
It's fine. But like, how do I get them to that is always like the battle.
Right. Right. Because I mean, again, it's like every audience is going to be a little bit different, right? So, like, I found the offensive or the joke that some people took offense with funny, but there are certainly some people who are going to listen to that and be like, "What is this guy talking
Yeah.
about? This is
I have a
crazy."
joke about child funerals that I don't do anymore because I thought it was very,
That's,
I mean, this is a thing I went to. Well, I went to a bunch. I went to a
I
couple.
suppose.
And I'll tell you the joke, but the joke is that like I went to a bunch and this is what I always found was kind of funny is that at child funerals, okay, I also want to say I had cancer. Okay, so everyone can calm
Right.
down on
Yes.
this, okay? This is a thing that I personally noticed is that the eulogies at the funerals, it was always like the mom would have longer, like fully fleshed out, like fully long ones, and the
Mhm.
dads would always have slightly shorter ones with like riffing time built into the end of it. So it was like, they would go and then at the end they'd just be like, he died doing what he loved. Something with robots that I didn't really understand. Like, and I remember that the joke was that if I had died, I know my mom's like eulogy for me would have been like, very nice. And my dad's would have just been like, all right, he loved the Rangers. He liked Legos and Irene. How much time do I have to do? Can I get off right now? He'll be survived by his friends. Josh and Phil's son. I forgot Phil's son's name, but it is, so like it's a real thing that I've noticed. I don't do it on
Yeah.
stage anymore because it really is it's a really tough hill to climb to get people, to get a group of people on board with that is very, very, very tough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's funny. Also, look, I might be an easy audience too. It's,
I think it's funny, and that's like in
it's
it. I've also had a really rough go at things, so maybe don't.
I
I
get it.
wouldn't have.
No, for sure.
You know,
So, like, you've mentioned the Rangers, you mentioned the Mets. Your Instagram handle is Eitan the goalie. Is that hockey, soccer? Which is your sport?
hockey, soccer's not a real sport. I
I
mean,
will not. No, no. Listen, I will not listen to that slander here.
listen,
Sorry.
long distance running is also a sport. Then I don't like.
It
It's
is.
not.
Listen, it
More
is, and I
stuff
won't
needs
do
to
that
happen.
either.
Make the soccer courts smaller and or put more people on it. Really load up the space. But
All
this
right,
in
man.
between is just nothing's happening for too long. We're in the TikTok generation.
I know that is a problem. That's or I'm not going there. Okay, so you are a sports fan. You started the Tribe NIL
Yes.
as a name, image, likeness collective to support Jewish college athletes. You started it last year? How is it going?
Yeah, so last year I created a marketing campaign with this Jewish quarterback with
The
Manischewitz
BY Jew.
BYG. We got him onto a Monster Box with Manischewitz, and the project did insanely well. Like with something like 800 million views on articles and
Yeah,
hundreds of millions of views on Twitter. Adam Schefter retweeted it. A lot of people retweeted it. It was
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
And what ended up happening was that a bunch of Jewish college athletes got in touch with me, and they were looking for two things. They were looking for their own NIL deals, and I'll put a pause in this. NIL, for those who don't know, is name, image, likeness. A couple of years ago, the Supreme Court, it used to be that you could not make money playing college sports. Then the Supreme Court ruled that you are allowed to make money selling marketing stuff with name, image, likeness, NIL, right? So these kids were looking for their own NIL deals and then also a sense of community. You know, I do think that things have really, really calmed down on college campuses over the past like year. But for a
Yeah.
while, it was very difficult to be a Jewish college kid on campus. If you thought it was bad being a Jewish college kid, it was 10 times worse being a Jewish college athlete. You are stuck
Yeah.
in your surroundings. Your scholarship requires a predetermined, set of friends. What if your coach says a weird offhanded comment to you? Like, what if your friends that you're like, and then on top of that, there's like, Jewish life cycle things where we got an athlete involved who she's a gymnast. All of her teammates are Catholic. They do Bible study, and then they also practice on Friday night, so she can't go to Hillel. So there is this like general like need out there to try to figure out like how to support this infrastructure of Jewish college athletes. So we created Tribe NIL. Tribe NIL is the largest group of Jewish college athletes that has ever been assembled. We have over 200 Jewish college athletes that we offer a support system to. A bunch of them get financial aid from us, like little stipends from us.
Yeah.
We also are partnering up with things like Athletes for Israel. That's going to give them a little bit of like speaker training on how to talk about this stuff when it comes up. If you are a visible Jewish college athlete, Israel just comes up, and we want to give them an ability not to push our politics on them, but to give them an ability to talk about how they feel about. We also got a birthright bus. We are going to be taking a bunch of kids to birthright in June, which is awesome. We are partnered with Chevets to do this Jewish College Athlete of the Year, where two winners, male and female, are going to be getting $10,000 and their likeness on a matzo box during this campaign. We are also sending out Shabbat boxes to our athletes, so a bunch of them are going to be able to do, just like give these kids a positive association of Judaism. I think a lot of things right now
Right.
is that I'll bring up October 7th again because Judaism has really shifted since then. We got to give people a positive association with Judaism. It's just, it will not stick if it's just doom and gloom. Like the community will be there when things are bad, but we got to highlight the good. And I think that this is a very, very great in for people who are immediate representatives for the Jewish community. If you have a Jewish name on your jersey, you are automatically one of the most visible Jews in a college campus.
Yeah. I mean, and campus is large or small. I mean, and I think even on smaller campuses, it's probably even harder
People are
because
shocked at how many Jewish college kids are. Like, yes, UCLA has Jewish college athletes. There's thousands.
right,
If you're if you're the only one in like middle Bumsville, Utah, then like that's crazy.
right. I mean, yeah, Jake Retzloff at BYU is gonna definitely stand out a little bit more than
Yeah.
like Jake Retzloff last year at Tulane, for example, where
A
he's
lot of
like,
Jews at Tulane.
yeah, just a
Can,
few.
can I tell you? I tell you, I was on ESPN Utah, and they asked me, they were like, when the Jake Retzloff stuff was happening, ESPN Utah is a bunch of Mormons. Like it is like,
Of
Mormon
course,
sports people. So
yeah.
one goes like, is it a big deal that there's not a lot of, are there any Jews at BYU? Like, is it a big deal that it's a Jewish quarterback? And I on air go, there are more Jews in Al Qaeda than in Brigham Young University. And for a second, just the Mormon producers, you can just tell we're just like, oh no, he said that. Yeah,
I mean, maybe not more, but it's awfully close. The numbers
it's
are,
right there.
it's
I
right
don't think
there.
I don't think Al Qaeda had an accountant and a marketing team. Here's an actual thing that someone brought up. I was talking with someone, and this is not appropriate. Hamas had like a printing like guy in Gaza. They were always making signs, and they had whenever they were doing the big like release things for that. This was the thing I was talking about with an Israeli person who there was an
Okay.
actual conversation to figure out like how are they making these stages and these massive like printing. There's a guy with a Canva or something that is like in Gaza is printing this stuff up at one point. I
Yes.
don't anyways.
It's
These are the things I
it's the
think
things
about.
you don't I gotta say, it's the things you don't really think about until like, many, many months later, and I'm glad we can sort of chuckle at them now because at the time it was weird and
There's
dark, but
there were funny things about cancer. This funny thing. I mean, there's funny things everywhere. Like humans are humans. Jews are weird. You
we are.
can't, that's just what it is. We can't escape it.
Well, Eitan, this has been super cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate getting to chat.
Oh yeah. Thanks for having me. I
This is
hope,
awesome.
I hope that most of this makes it in.